Good morning, folks, and happy Real Friday. Today in computer science, we're going to be talking about processing arrays. So previously in other things, like just before the quiz slash assessment, you were utilizing arrays and you were introduced to the idea of arrays as this list of data. What's going on now is we're going to be learning how to more in-depth utilize that list of data using some code such as a for loop, which is very similar to a while loop, except the difference being that in a for loop, you introduce its own counter. So you're planning on doing something a certain number of times, you introduce your own variable for the loop. And then you'd have some logic and the command to add to that for loop. And so it's entirely meant to do like a repeated process over and over again for a certain number of times. And it's pretty much this. You can create a for loop from a while loop, but for loops have a bunch of this abstraction built in, so then you can do it in one line rather than several lines with a while loop. And so what you're going to do is, it's lesson 15. There are some bubbles to do. There is a useful video talking about processing lists, which goes through it. And then right at the start of it all, you end up getting tossed into creating a for loop. And you're basically going to create a console log that's just going to basically state your variable I, so you can see how the loop function works. So it should end up just doing the variable I. So as you see here, 0, 1, 2, 3 over and over again. And that's what it wants to do. And then you're going to just try changing this and play around a bunch with this and see how this goes. You can change the command. So you can say less than 7. You can set it to say 22 and change this. And then you can do minus minus, and so now it'll count down from all that, and I really encourage you to play around with this and see what results you get. Try and break the for loop, which you can definitely do. So that is one of the key things. Another thing that you go into after using that loop is the idea of printing an array. So you have your array, and what you can do is do a for loop to display your array thing. So you would do like this, add that to the bottom, and like it shows here, you would change this to my array dot length to call the length of your array. And what you would just do is you could just do console log, and then what you would have is my array, and then parentheses or square brackets I, which that would mean like every time you have your I change for each I in this for loop, it's going to print out your value of your array. And you run it, and you should see it's displaying all the values, all 10 values of your new array, starting from the first one all the way down. So starting from 3, bam, bam, bam. And you can then do something like, so that would be one of the key things you can do. And then you can also do, finally, at the end of all that, console.log, and you can just do my array. And I think I just chose the wrong things. Let's just see about doing that. And reset, run. And bam, we can scroll through and see, oh look, all of our numbers match up. We're good. And so then from there, we get into doing some math and creating what is called a search function within an array, or ways to rearrange your arrays using these for loops. And that's sort of one of the more powerful things that we can do with arrays, and sort of being able to introduce over in Bubble 12, introducing the idea of integrating these arrays with functions. So then you end up doing some pretty cool things and very powerful computing tools. So that's what is going to be covered with this lesson. So you're going to go through bubbles 3 through 15, and you will be very successful at this. It's pretty straightforward. Just make sure that when you're reading the instructions, you take the time to read through the do this to make sure you understand what you're trying to do. So in this case, we provide some new starter code, creates 2 more arrays. You run the starter code to verify, you create a new function to call it search, and you're basically creating a search function here. And then, of course, they always have these GIFs to sort of help show you what's going on. And you can switch between the various modes using block mode if you're a little bit lost. There is nothing wrong with using block mode if you're unsure of the of the order, or if you might feel like you might make a syntax error. It's a great way to just sort of get things out there and have them sort of in your workspace without worrying too much. So you're going to sort of continue working on this in lesson 12, and then you're going to have a finished one where you're able to sort it and all that at bubble 15. So that is what there is for today, and I hope you all have a good time.